Hello from Amarillo, not Amarillo, Texas. If God has a favorite country and it's the United States, then his favorite state is certainly Texas, and his favorite city is certainly Amarillo, Texas. So we are sitting right now on the couch that I will be sleeping on tonight. This is my awesome host, Aiden.
How's it going?
So, where are you from?
I'm originally from Clovis, New Mexico, which is about 2 hours west.
How many people live in Clovis?
Just under 40,000. I'd say closer rough estimate, probably about 38,000.
And where did you go to college?
I went to school at Eastern New Mexico University in a tiny little town called Portales.
And this is in Eastern New Mexico.
Yeah.
It's famous because it's kind of close to Roswell, but not really,
No,
because New Mexico's a big place.
Yeah, it's still about 100 miles or about another 2 hours drive from Roswell.
Mm-hmm. And what brought you out to the Yellow City?
After I graduated college, I got a job about 5 months after as a juvenile detention officer here in Amarillo.
And how long did you last in that one?
About 9 months.
Was it tough? It was tough, right?
Yeah, it was very tough, mentally and physically. I worked the overnight shifts.
Do you have any good stories from that experience?
I mean, I wouldn't say good stories. I would say like sad stories, but I don't think you're looking for sad.
Well, you can tell us a sad story, but maybe try to find some positivity in it if you could, if it's possible.
Yeah, one of my first, probably somewhere in my first week of actually like doing training and such, I get there and there is a medical assistance call to one of the pods, and a girl was committing suicide. She was not successful in her suicide, so she lived through the process and was pretty upset after the fact, but she is still alive to my knowledge.
Well, I guess the happy part is that she's still alive.
Right, most definitely.
So tell us about small town American life. I mean, you lived in a small town.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, you start school with, 20, 30 people, and you just kind of grow up, and those 20, 30 people become your friend network, essentially, and those 20, 30 people are also the friend network you graduate with. Clovis was a little bit different because we're also a military town, so your friend network kind of shifts as you go through school and get older. Some of your friends aren't there later in life, or you have new friends that are there later in life. Luckily for me, most of my friends were fortunately not military families, so I still talk to and keep in touch with and went to college with most of them.
What was the military out there?
The military, we have an Air Force base called Cannon Air Force Base, and like I was just telling Alexander here, which has also been published as the third base on a top 10 list that you do not want to be stationed at, because it's in Clovis, which is not a very fun town for adults, I suppose. So
the Air Force Base, there to defend New Mexico against UFOs,
yeah,
to defend the American people. Number 3, I mean, that's pretty impressive. That's pretty prestigious.
Yeah, I mean, out of all the bases, and that's not just Air Force bases. That's all military bases in the United States. So it's up there.
So what did you do for work back in Clovis?
I started off at McDonald's, as should every American. No, I'm joking. I worked at McDonald's for about 2.5 years before I switched and started working for my university as a front desk dorm person. So pretty much from the time I was old enough to work, I worked at McDonald's until I left to college, and then I started working at the college.
So what did you do at McDonald's?
I flipped burgers.
Flipped burgers.
Flipped burgers or major burgers.
So for people around the world, many countries have like national service. South Korea, Israel, military service is mandatory. In the United States, McDonald's service is mandatory.
Yeah.
From 18 to 20. No, from 16. How old were you when you did it?
I started at 16.
Yes, so it's from 16 to 18, mandatory burger flipping. Give us a ranking of fast food restaurants. Give us your top.
Let's see. Top 5.
Top 5.
I'll give you top 5. One of my favorite right now, it just opened in Amarillo too, so we've been on that on that drive lately is Raising Cane's. I would say that one's probably, we'll say that one's number one. That one's
I've
going to be my
never
top.
heard of this. Raisin Cane's?
Yeah, it's a chicken. They have what's called a micro menu, and they serve chicken, or chicken. And so basically you get a 4-finger basket, a 3-finger basket, a 6-finger basket, or a chicken strip sandwich. And they have coleslaw, bread, and their famous Raising Cane sauce, which most people go pretty crazy about. I know the first night I went, which was this last Tuesday, a week ago, it was an hour-long wait just to get your food at a fast food restaurant.
That's insane.
After that, I would say, man, I don't know. I would say local to Clovis, I would put Taco Box at number 2. Most people don't like it because it's really, really greasy. But it's kind of a New Mexican twist on a taco fast food kind of thing.
All right, number 3.
Number 3, let's see. I'm gonna have to say, I'm gonna go with Taco Villa. It's another taco fast food joint. Just kind of, it's more along the lines of Del Taco for someone who might not have heard of Taco Villa.
But Del Taco sucks, right? I don't.
I haven't actually ever had it. That's just what most people compare Taco Villa to. So
it's a good Del Taco. What are your 3 least favorite?
Least favorite. I'm not a huge fan of Long John Silver's. My dad loves it. So if he sees this video, I'm sorry, Dad. It's not all that it's hyped up to be.
There goes the end of that relationship.
I mean, even though I worked at McDonald's is pretty well overrated for what it is. And then another one might be Taco Bell, but I eat Taco Bell a lot, to be honest, because it's cheap and right down the street.
I think a lot of Americans have a love-hate relationship with Taco Bell.
Yeah.
So, did you work in college?
I did. I did an internship as an aircraft mechanic. I worked in my school's program, mascot program, where I took care of 2 greyhounds. And then, aside from the McDonald's, which I have already noted, I worked at the front desk in a dorm.
Nice. So you were beating the greyhounds, making them race.
No, they were former racing greyhounds. Now they're just for show, and those are probably 2 of the laziest dogs you will ever meet. They went for maybe 2 or 3 walks a day for no more than 15 minutes apiece. And that's pushing it at 2 or 3 walks. Most of the day it was 1 walk a day for 15 minutes, and then the rest of the day they slept in their little on-campus location.
So did you learn about greyhound racing when you were taking care of the greyhounds?
No, actually.
Because that's what they're famous for.
Yeah, that's what they are.
I don't know if greyhounds are raced in other countries, or that's a uniquely American thing.
Yeah.
Do they race greyhounds still in the United States?
I think so, because they still have like retired greyhound adoption agencies. So I think that they do, but don't quote me on that because I'm not 100% sure.
So you used to work at a gun store too?
I did after, probably my last few years in college.
And tell us about gun laws in New Mexico.
Gun laws in New Mexico, so you have to obtain a concealed carry license if you want to carry your gun concealed to where the general public can't see it. As for open carry, there is no certification or licensing for open carry as long as you have the right to buy a gun and haven't broken any of the laws that are set in place. You can openly carry your firearm unless stated by a business, which most businesses do have those signs posted that you can't carry inside openly.
Yes. Please do not bring in your assault rifle when you're shopping for hardware. So I could go to your gun store, get my instant background check done, put cash on the table, walk out with a semi-automatic, and then just go down Main Street, Clovis, on my shoulder. No problem.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, even in Clovis, being being in New Mexico, which is essentially more a part of Texas, you still don't see that very often. In fact, I've never actually seen anybody walking around with their assault rifle. You will see somebody with a handgun on their hip that's not a police officer every now and then, but even then, it's still fairly rare to see somebody walking around like that.
So you did exchange in university?
I did. I did an exchange in Finland, in a city called Turku, which
Excellent pronunciation,
I
by the way.
have heard that Turku is considered the ass of Finland. So there's always the lovely "Kiss my Turku" saying, which they have capitalized on quite a bit when I was there. But that was about 2.5 years ago.
What do you think of the Finns?
I think they're a wonderful people. They were nothing but kind and welcoming to me, being a ignorant American, if you will. My roommates welcomed me with very open arms, and were completely understanding and helped me, I guess, get more open-minded about things.
Like what? What did they help you with?
Just kind of seeing things, before I went in, kind of, in all honesty, America's the greatest country on earth. We're the best at everything. We can do no wrong. And seeing stuff from the outside is quite mind changing. I went in, I would say, pretty close minded, and came out of that whole situation or whole journey quite a bit more open minded, and seeing that our education system is horribly flawed, and and I'm sure this will kind of lead into your next topic. Our government doesn't help the people as much as theirs does. The taxes actually return to the people instead of going to spend more money on anything other than military.
Although Finland has quite an incredible military history for their small size.
They do.
Right? Did you learn about the Winter War?
I did.
There?
A little bit. Didn't research or wasn't taught a whole lot on it. I just know that they were a pretty overwhelming force for a force their size.
Yeah, so like it was 1939, I believe 1939, and the Soviet Union invades Finland. Finland, a country of today, 5 million people?
Yeah, roughly
5 million people, so maybe back then, I don't know, let's say 4 million people. They don't have a lot of kids, so I think 4 million's realistic. So the Soviet Union, the massive Soviet Union, one of the two superpowers, invades little tiny Finland, and Finland is able to defend itself and defeat the Soviet army. One of the biggest military upsets, literally in history.
Yeah,
I would say. Yeah. So what? Tell us one thing that you really liked about the Finns.
I would just have to say their warm, welcoming nature. I mean, they have. I've kind of gathered that they kind of have a very keep to themselves, introverted personality as a stereotype, but most of the people, I would say 8 out of 10 Finns I met were very welcoming, were more than happy to have a conversation, and get to know me. So that was kind of nice.
What was one aspect of their culture that you really appreciated, that you wanted to bring back to America?
In all seriousness, this is kind of more the European, but it's still part of them too, is that they bike everywhere. The cars aren't as big of a deal. There's more public transit, but I rode a bike probably 5 to 6 days out of the week. And that 7th day, I was at home just relaxing from the other days that I'm riding my bike everywhere. So just being more active and getting to where I'm going.
Are you worried that you're going to get your Texas ID card revoked after saying that driving is bad and biking is good?
I mean, as somebody who grew up in a town where if you don't have a car, you don't go anywhere because the next nearest town is 15, 16 miles away, which isn't that far. I mean, I'm sure I rode that much easily in a day or two. But, with the city that I lived in there were 6 or 7 smaller towns all connected into this one little area, whereas being from Clovis, it's Clovis. The next nearest town is literally 8 miles away, and it's maybe 1,000 people.
What was the one thing about the United States that just blew the Finnish people's minds? that they would ask you about?
It'd have to be the gun culture. I mean, everybody would ask, "Do you want a gun?" And I did, so I
You'd be
told
like,
them, "Yeah."
hell yeah, I do.
I told
I
them,
have it
"Yeah."
right here.
No, I didn't. But I told him, I was a reserve deputy for about a year before I left to Finland, um, because in college my major is criminal justice, so I was getting ready to do my internship. So I kind of wanted to know what I was getting into.
What's something you didn't like about Finnish people, Finnish culture?
I can't really think of one that just really bugged me right now. Um, Maybe one that kind of I thought was different, being from the U.S., was their view of personal space. That about a car's length between another person is good personal space.
Yeah, you want to do a quick Finnish interview here?
Yeah, we can do that.
So we're probably both out of frame.
Yeah.
But you can see our hands maybe.
Yeah, this is what most people, from my understanding, again, would be appropriate personal space in Finland, is being two people who have just met maybe mere hours ago.
All right. So, have you ever seen the picture where it's like it's a Swedish bus stop, and then it's a person, and then it's like 10 feet back another person, and then 10 feet back another person? Have you seen that one before?
Yes.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite Scandinavian meme. Who did you vote this last election?
I did. I voted for Gary Johnson, the former governor of New Mexico.
And I'm sure most people probably haven't heard of Gary. What is Aleppo Johnson?
Yeah.
So tell us about him.
That's probably what he's most known for now at this point, is What is Aleppo. He's of the Libertarian Party. And I kind of told Alexander before, I'm not well knowledged in politics, so I'll give you what I do know. He's of the Libertarian Party, more power to the people, less government, smaller government, and then businesses run themselves instead of businesses running the government or governments running the business.
Mm-hmm. And pretty big point of differentiation from Republicans is libertarians are generally pro-immigration and pro-civil liberties, pretty socially liberal. Well, I should say pretty. The most socially liberal by far. So this why not Republican? Why didn't you hop on the Trump train?
I mean, this is a big hot point, or a controversial point. One, being someone who's traveled parts of the world. I won't say traveled the world, but traveled some areas of the world. The immigration is just, I think that's, going back into our American history, that's what this country was built on. People come from England, Spain, Ireland, I mean, you name it, we've got immigrants from there. So being a country that was formed on immigration, I think that's something that we should hold value to.
But we're definitely in Trump country.
Most definitely. I would say I've seen, even now at this point, after, what are we, 5 months into his terms now, or almost 5 months into his term, and I still see Trump flags, Trump stickers, Trump shirts, hats, whatever.
Trump flags.
Yeah, Trump flags.
Like on the back of trucks.
Yeah.
Like one American flag on one side and a big Trump flag on the other.
Yeah, and sometimes to accompany it a Confederate flag and then normally a POW flag.
That's a lot of flags.
Yeah. I've seen somebody that was, I don't know if they got pulled over for their flags or if they were speeding, but they had 4 or 5 flags in the back of their truck at one time.
The police officer's just like, it's too many.
Yeah.
You got to get rid of one of them.
I imagine that's what they were getting pulled over for, is just being too much of a distraction while driving. But I'm not sure.
Would you say that most of your friends and family voted for Trump, or would you say that they voted another way?
I would say most of my friends probably, knowing my friends, I would say that most of them either voted for Johnson or even Clinton.
Oh, yeah. Well, New Mexico actually was a blue state.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so something I noticed out here that I haven't seen anywhere in the United States was we were getting Texas barbecue, and there was a guy with a shirt with the black and white flag and then a blue stripe in the middle, and then I see this and I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting. And then I saw that again on a truck, American flag on one side, American flag black and white stripes with the blue
Yeah.
stripe in the middle on the other. Uh, Tell us about what that flag means.
After the Dallas ambush or incident that happened some months ago now, right after that was, and this is in the midst of all the police brutality segments and a lot of people being anti-police for that matter. After all these 6 police officers were killed in Dallas, there became this big movement of standing with the blue line, which represents what's on that flag, the blue line being the police officers. So now there's this big movement of basically saying we're with the police officers and not against them. Also, you can see sometimes, and I've just seen this one in the last week or two, is that you'll see it where it's the same thing. It's the black and white flag with the one stripe that's blue, but halfway down the middle of the blue line it switches to red, which I presume would mean your other first responders, being your firemen, your EMTs, 911 dispatchers, which I guess that one's kind of lumped in with the blue police officer side.
So, if you're a police officer or a fire person and you want a nice, warm Texas welcome, come on down to Amarillo. Let's see, what else? You told me that you actually wanted to be a customs officer. Is that the right word?
Yeah, I was going into. I had an application active for the U.S. Border Patrol, which is under the Department of Homeland Security. I just, for one, decided that was not for me. Couldn't even really tell you why I decided. I just kind of had this gut feeling that it was not something that I would enjoy or really be able to do.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And when did you apply for that?
I had an application. I had to put my application in last year in March,
Ah,
and that was an active application all the way through.
probably smart for you to not
October.
go into that. I'd
Yeah.
say now. Hopefully, we'll see
Yeah.
what happens. So, tell us about your girlfriend.
I'm sort of. I am seeing a girl from Juarez, New Mexico, and I apologize if I butchered that pronunciation for any of you Spanish speakers who may be watching later. Who is a dentist down there. We met online probably a little over 3 years ago and have talked on and off since. Because I want to say we had talked before I left to Finland, kind of stopped talking after that, and then started talking a little bit again this last year in August or September-ish. So
And you've never met in person,
no, have never met in person.
but you will be
Yeah,
soon.
we've Skyped or FaceTimed probably countless hours, and then I will finally be meeting her in person in about 3 weeks at a music festival in El Paso.
And what's her name?
Her name is Paula.
Paula. So, for the people who don't know, tell us a little bit about Ciudad Juarez and what it's famous for.
Most people probably know it for being one of the top 5 dangerous cities in the world. I mean, that's what I know it for, and it's taken her months and months of convincing me to even consider going down there just because of how the media portrays it. And she says it's not that dangerous as it sounds if you stay in the right areas.
And one big aspect of American culture, of course, being a libertarian, you're probably against it, is the drug war. The United States is famous for launching a drug war. In the late 70s, millions of people have been imprisoned. Millions of people have lost their right to vote because they have had felony charges from just simple drug possession. It's not associated with anything else, but you've had marijuana, you've had cocaine, whatever. Just even if it's a small amount for personal use, you could go to jail for years. One of the big effects of that has been the growth of Mexican cartels, and which supply and produce the drugs and distribute the drugs that the Americans consume. And so, because there is that war going on, and it's literally a war in Mexico, the former president Felipe Calderon launched a full-on war, I believe, in 2004, and since then, nearly 100,000 people have been killed. I mean, these are just all murders. Because they don't specifically record which ones have been killed in drug-related violence.
Okay.
But it's safe to assume that a majority of those 100,000 people who have been killed since the drug wars first launched were involved in the war. And so you can look up these incredible images of just completely militarized Mexican police going out there and having gun. I saw a video the other day of them killing a cartel boss in southwest Mexico from a helicopter
Wow.
using a full-on a helicopter gunship, like machine gunning this compound. So Ciudad Juarez is unfortunately probably the number one most heavily affected by this war city in Mexico. I think unfortunately, I think in 100 years when the kids are reading the history books, I don't think that the drug war will be remembered very well.
No, I think you're right on that one. I don't think it will be remembered as something that was a good thing in history.
I'm actually, after this road trip, I'm going to Portugal to get my master's in management. And Portugal actually decriminalized the possession of drugs in, I think, 1999, 2000. So, although the United States is quite a bit richer than Portugal, Portugal's doing some things right that I think the U.S. could definitely learn from. Let's see, is there anything else to cover? Do you have any good fun facts about Clovis or Amarillo?
Living in Amarillo only a year, I don't know a whole lot about it, and it hasn't even been a full calendar year yet. So I'm not so sure about that one. Clovis is, I would say most well known for, if you have heard of it, for the Clovis Man, which is reportedly the oldest carbon dated person to have ever lived, which has been over, I think, some over 10,000 or 12,000 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what Clovis kind of is known for. They've got the Clovis Man.
All right. Well, one last question. Tell us the best thing about people from Clovis. Tell us the worst thing about people from Clovis.
I would say the best thing is that being a military community, they are absolutely very welcoming to new people, and even if you're not military community, you're just coming to Clovis. We've had people come in from England for the cheese plant that popped up some years ago when I was in middle school. And we've had people come in for dairies. We've got people from Australia, South Africa, Germany, just all over the world for different agriculture business. One of the, I'd say, worst things is, maybe this isn't a people thing, but somehow Clovis and New Mexico in general has a way of pulling you back in. You just can't ever get away from it. It always brings you back no matter what.
I get that. The Wi-Fi password at my old community college was the winding road, and we would always joke it's the winding road that goes around and around and around and around, and you can never escape from. Well, I think that does it. Thank you for hosting me tonight. I'm excited to be in Amarillo, Texas. Hopefully I can work on my accent a little bit, get rid of this sad Northwest thing I got going on, and get some good Texan accent going on. I'm not from Texas, but I got here as soon as I could. Your sister actually has that bumper sticker.
She does.
On the back of her car. It's a real thing. People have a lot of pride out here.
They do.
All right. Well, that's it, man. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.